I used to not like this monitor for a few reasons. The first reason I didn't really like the Asus MB16ACE, even though it's obvious when buying it, is that the monitor comes with a flimsy little stand that you can use to stand it up vertically or horizontally. Now this isn't much of an issue by itself, but when the monitor is being sold as something that is supposed to be portable, having to carry out a whole extra object around with you just to be able to use this properly makes it a bit annoying to actually bring it with me. Honestly, I wish it just had a built-in stand somehow, even though it might make the monitor slightly thicker, because I have seen other monitors with built-in stands around the same price range as this thing. And for the next reason I didn't like the monitor, I have to do a little bit of technical explaining. The Asus MB16ACE can receive input via two methods, neither of those being with an HDMI cable or DisplayPort cable. The first way it receives power and videos via a USB-C to C cable that supports something called DisplayPort Alt or DP Alt mode. Now, if you don't know, not every USB-C cable supports this technology, as it must be purposefully built into the monitor, the device you're connecting to, and the cable you're using. And seeing as USB-C cables don't all have one standard specification, you will need to specifically use the cable that came in the box, or be sure the cable and device you do end up buying or using support DP Alt mode, so you can have a functional monitor. And the other way the monitor can receive power and video is via a USB 3.0 A to C cable, but you have to install a piece of software or a driver called DisplayLink. Now, I didn't know that was a thing back when I did my initial review of the monitor, and that's why I just didn't really like it before, since I thought it could only receive video via the DisplayPort Alt mode, which again isn't supported by everything, and since I had mainly bought this to use as a monitor for my Steam Deck when docked, the monitor was pretty useless to me since that doesn't really have any extra USB-C cables that you can use. I only found out about DisplayLink after getting my Elgato prompter that I'm using now, since that also uses the DisplayLink driver and a USB A to C cable, and after getting that set up, I was thinking, wait a minute, I thought the USB A to C cables couldn't transmit power and video to monitors. Turns out they can. After finding that out, it prompted me to come back and recheck the specs and the webpage for the MB16ACE. And as it turns out, the driver they have listed on their website wasn't just for letting the monitor automatically detect the orientation between vertical and horizontal, it was also for the DisplayLink. You can install the DisplayLink driver on a few different operating systems like Windows, Mac, Android, Chrome OS, and for Linux, it seems you can only run, at least officially, run it on Ubuntu-based operating systems, so it's not natively supported on something like the Steam Deck, for example, since SteamOS is a Debian-based operating system. As far as I can tell, there's not much of a downside to using the monitor with DP Alt or DisplayLink. It still feels as responsive as usual, considering it has a 5 millisecond response time and displays at a full 1080p 60 FPS. Meanwhile, my main monitors are 1440p and have a 1 millisecond response time. The main thing I have been using and wanting to use this for is to play rhythm game whenever I'm at home, and not at home. And I'm pretty bad at them, but as you can see here, the game looks and runs just fine. And if you don't know what the game is, this is essentially a clone of Sound Voltex. Anyways, another limitation you will need to keep in mind is power constraints with whatever other device you're using. Since this monitor is powered by whatever you're using or a dock, you may run into issues with the other device not being able to provide enough power, for example. We're going to be using the Steam Deck in this example as well. But if you're using a similar device, it may have the same sort of limitations. So with the Steam Deck dock, the dock will draw at max 45 watts of power between the deck and any other devices connected to the deck, like a keyboard and mouse, at least with the default charger. So when using the monitor for anything lightweight, like browsing the web and writing Word documents, you can pretty much use the monitor with any setting, but the moment you try to open a game is when issues start happening, since the deck requires more power. For example, when we open Minecraft with the monitor and 100 brightness and 1080p, the Steam Deck starts having issues powering everything, as you can see with the deck kind of freaking out trying to figure out what to do. But if we turn the brightness down to 50 and start it again, everything seems to run just fine. But if you're plugging this directly into your computer, this of course shouldn't really be much of an issue. Really, you should be checking how much power your device is using and how much more power the dock you're using can supply so you don't run into any similar issues. Otherwise, maybe to connect it to a dock that manages power delivery for everything instead of the computer, so that just isn't much of an issue at all. Now more about the monitor itself. It's a 15.6-inch 1080p screen that displays at up to 60 FPS and has a 5 millisecond response time. Now the screen on it is an IPS display. It doesn't really get that bright at its brightest setting, unfortunately, but it is still pretty workable. It costs about $200 new, which is a bit of a hefty price for what you get, and if we took a single look at Amazon, there are monitors going for half of that cost that seem to have the same or similar specs, though none of them seem to really be name brand monitors, so you may be paying a lower price for a lower quality device if you decide to go with another option. Also, it does look like Asus has another SKU of portable monitors that are quite a bit cheaper with similar specs when looking at it at a glance. Of course, the monitor is also powered by a single USB-C cable, which, as we went over, has its own advantages and disadvantages, but it is very nice so you don't have to carry around a whole separate power cable and or HDMI or DisplayPort cable. The monitor is also pretty light, coming in at about 1.5 pounds, allowing for easy carrying, and just like any other monitors, you can change the display settings, so if you want to make the display monitor brighter or dimmer, you can, or maybe you want to change the temperature of the screen, or maybe you want to use Asus's gaming mode that allows you to put a crosshair on the screen, or I guess a timer as well. This monitor can pretty much do anything you would realistically need a monitor to do. Honestly, knowing what I do now, I do actually like this monitor, even though it can have its issues as outlined earlier. Would I recommend it? Yes and no. Knowing that there are other cheaper options, some of them from Asus, if I was looking at getting another monitor or a new monitor, I would check those out to see if there's any particularly good deals, and probably grab one of those. Otherwise, if I was dead set on getting this monitor or something in the price range, I think it is a good monitor that I will keep and continue to use with my Steam Deck since I already have it and it does everything that I really need it to. Anyways, that's the video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like the video, and have a good one.